Jesus, will you look at this?
Something's been butchered up here.
Let's hope it was an animal.
I never saw so much blood.
Oh, we better search the place.
Oh, it's Mrs. Reston. I knew it. I knew something awful had happened. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Get her out of here and call the station.
Little Timmy.
You ready?
Big man, Mommy.
Oh,
Mommy.
Timmy.
Where's Mommy? Where's
Take it easy, kid. You're safe now. Where's the father?
He's away in Europe with the Air Force. But there's an aunt. She lives an hour away. I'll call her and take him over there.
Where's Mommy?
Oh, this
Where's
is
Mommy?
terrible.
Okay, so Pieces.
Pieces, yes.
This is definitely an example of sort of the giallo.
Influenced by, for sure, yeah.
It's Italian. It's got bad dubbing. It's got the bright colors. It's got 85 minutes of some of the most vicious violence and gratuitous nudity that you'll ever sort of come across. And I guess the impressive thing about it is how the movie absolutely makes no bones about it. I mean, after the first opening 5 minutes, like if in the opening 5 minutes, a boy is putting a puzzle, and we see that the puzzle is like a centerfold, a fairly innocent, nude photo of a woman, as nude photos go. And he's putting this puzzle together. His mom sees it. She loses her mind and is just like his father. He's going to get rid of all that stuff and starts punishing him. And the boy disappears from the room while she's dealing with that. And he comes back and takes out mom with an axe to the face several times. Actually ends up dismembering her, putting parts of her all over the house.
And not just that, he chops her up with such glee.
Yeah.
The smile on his face is beautiful as he does it.
And like I said, this is minute 5 in the movie. And you're like, okay. Right away, the movie announces itself. Okay? Sex and violence, that's all this is. That's all we got to offer. Go with it or don't. I went with it. So I had a really good time. Excellent. I can understand that a lot of people who were maybe not used to this type of film, or especially in the really easy to offend age that we find ourselves in, Pieces is just not something that you can recommend to a lot of people and not get scorn in return.
It's a hard pill for a lot of people.
It is. The title of it that I looked at, it says was This Night Has 1,000 Screams.
Okay.
But it is Pieces. It's the same movie that we're talking about, but for the records, someone might find it under that title as well. 40 years go by. We're on another university campus. Murders start happening. Terrible, awful, chainsaw, decapitating murders. Why the dude would lie dormant for 40 years, we don't know. And how awkwardly the movie keeps on trying to set up red herring characters. It becomes kind of hilarious. My favorite being Paul L. Smith, this actor. He probably looked familiar to me. He played Bluto in the Popeye movie, and he was in that Crime Wave movie. And he's not a good actor at all, but he's just got this incredible
big,
physical presence. He's got this stare with the one squinty eye.
Closed, yeah.
And there's just that guy is in the movie, and the movie's trying to make us believe he's the killer. And there's just no fucking way
he's obviously the killer because he's a big guy and he's cleaning his chainsaw and chuckling, and he's obviously the killer, right?
The all of the procedural stuff with the the investigator talking to the staff at the university, his instant trust of one of the kids at the university who really, by all accounts, should be a suspect.
Yeah.
None of this makes sense, and I love all of it. So, what's the riddle of the movie? What does Pieces have that so many giallo movies don't for me, Scott? Because I did have fun with this right up to the nut squeeze of an ending.
Yeah, well, this is literally one of my favorite movies of all time. This is not just slashers. It's one of my favorite horror movies. Any movie. I just love Pieces to death.
Wow.
And I almost feel like it's cheating putting this movie on here because I think it's a legit guilty masterpiece. But yes, it has flaws, many flaws. It seems like every actor in the movie was having their worst day of acting ever, all at the same time. But I love each one of these flaws, and I probably love the movie even more because of them.
Right.
I wonder if the movie was better written and better acted, and it made sense.
It would hurt the movie.
Would I like it as much?
It
But
would hurt the movie.
I'm laughing, I'm howling, I'm just squealing with delight with every scene. And you're right, there's the character Kendall, that's the main kid that we meet at the university. He's the nerdiest looking ladies man. Like, he has sex with everybody in the whole school. It's weird. He gets so much action that the hot girl in the library sends him a note saying, "I want to do it underwater. Meet me in the pool."
Yeah.
And he can afford to just crumple that up and throw it away.
Whatever.
It's like, just another one. And you're right. The police, for some reason, put so much trust in this kid. And they even say, "I trust this kid. I'd stake my life on it." And
Based on what?
yeah, it's this police logic. It's the silliest police procedural of all time. Like, absolutely silly. It's a Spanish director. This is, I guess, what he assumes American policing is like. Then they send a tennis champion to work undercover as the tennis coach at the university. And when all else fails, the police are out of ideas. It only makes sense to deputize the kid and figure out what the police couldn't.
He keeps on finding these bodies. He's like at ground zero of all of the deaths, and like
Never a suspect.
he's not the killer, spoiler, but like there was no reason not to consider him a suspect, and instead he's like as much of an investigator as the lead detective.
And for the ladies, yes, there is a lot of female nudity. But for the ladies, you even get a glimpse of little Kendall when he's done banging another random co-ed. He gets out of bed and his sights on the undercover tennis coach is his next conquest. You do see, so usually there's no male nudity for your female
Full frontal
listeners.
male
so you
nudity
get some.
and full frontal male nudity that you won't be threatened by.
But in this movie, I wrote down something, a list. There's so much to love. The bloody low budget gore, the dubbing, the story logic, the 80s gymnastic attire, the random kung fu.
What the fuck was that scene? What the fuck was that scene?
You got shoddy police work, the nudity, the overacting and the underacting, and puking policemen. You got
Yep.
puking policemen. But yeah, the kung fu. I'm sure you wanted to talk about the
I
kung
did.
fu
Well,
scene.
apparently this guy was an actor who would double for Bruce Lee because Bruce Lee had died and people still wanted to make money off of
Well,
Bruce Lee.
his name is Bruce Lee with one E.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
but for some reason, one of the producers must have known him, so they said, "Let's put him in the movie." Where does he fit in the movie? He doesn't. How does we make that scene make sense? We don't even try. He shows up half-assed attacking this girl. She knocks him down. It looks like he's hurt. Then he just gets up and he was like, just fucking with you. And he leaves. We never saw him before. Yeah. We never see him again. Like,
yeah, Kendall comes out and he says, "Oh, it's my kung fu instructor." I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh, I must have had some bad chop suey." And then he said, "See you later." And
Bye.
it's never addressed again. We never see this character before or after. The lady was just attacked by him. She doesn't say it's awesome.
I think you might have touched on it though. I think it's this perfect storm because it's wall-to-wall flaws, it's wall-to-wall stupid, and there's just no way they could have done it on purpose.
Yeah.
But somehow this all came together to make just this epically entertaining movie. Part of it is the fact that it's 85 minutes. I watched a movie for a different episode of Rank and Review called Sleepless, which is very, very similar to this.
Okay.
It's a Dario Argento slasher movie, right down to the procedural, right down to like the female victims, but it's 2 hours.
Oh,
and it
geez.
felt like I was like knee deep in mud the whole time I was watching the movie. It just was so slow. This movie doesn't let you get bored ever.
No, somebody is
Like-
either dead or naked
Or both.
or having kung fu attacks. Something's happening every 5 minutes.
And the procedural aspect is so terribly handled that it becomes hilarious. And the red herrings are so terribly handled that it becomes hilarious. And it's not that the killer was obvious. Like, we knew that it'd have to be somebody in their 40s who's doing this, or else the setup of the movie made no sense. But the movie does nothing.
Did it anyways.
Yeah, but the movie does nothing to tip its hand to say, yeah, this is why. They keep on like giving you really obvious suspects that clearly aren't the killer, and that's all the movie accomplishes. Whenever they focus too much attention on one character, we know to not suspect them. Like, it shouldn't work, and yet it does. It's magical. I think had I thought of this movie or had I seen it before I made my list, this probably would have made the list. But like, you kind of reintroduced this movie to me.
Absolutely.
I think I did see it like when I was like way too young for it, and it just kind of like blurred with all the other inappropriate Tom Savini effect laden horror movies that I watched at that time. And going back at it, this is a Giallo movie that I can get behind. I can't defend it, but I can get behind it, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, and like you, I saw it when I was young.
Yeah.
And then I was attached to it ever since, and I keep seeing it. This is one I can watch every week. It's just, it never gets old. And, like the policeman, he reminds me of Frank Drebin from, Police Squad.
He's terrible.
Naked Gun. It's awesome. And it's weird because most of my notes are pointing out the flaws.
Yeah, but as if they're not flaws.
They're so charming. Like, the waterbed attack scene with the very rubber knife that clearly bends as he stabs the back of the girl's head.
Well, you were talking about the undercover tennis pro. That scene made me laugh out loud when they were playing tennis because I'm pretty sure only one of the two girls could actually play the game. Like the brunette girl uses the exact same return 3 times in a row. Like, I honestly think it's the same footage. Like, that was the time she actually made the ball go over the net. Like,
and that actress, Linda Day George, correct?
I think so.
She should be nominated for the Hall of Fame for the best overacting moment in movie history. That's that moment when they find the dead body in the shower, and she screams, "Bastard! Bastard! Bastard!" It's the best part of the movie. As soon as that whole scene starts with the locker room and the marching band music is in, I get so excited, and it ends. That's the climax of the movie for me. It's just, if you have the DVD, there's an option where you can watch it with a theater audience audio version, and it's so much fun because you hear people are laughing, they're applauding, they're yelling stuff at the screen with every line of dialogue. It's kind of fun. If you get a chance to do it, it's a good time.
I bet you can guess another movie that crossed my mind watching this.
No.
Nightmare City.
Oh, yes.
You and I reviewed Nightmare City for a zombie podcast once upon a time, and that it shares with this. I think I prefer this one, if I'm honest, to Nightmare City, but that scene with all the girls doing the workout exercises. There's something about the clothes that the girls wear that they feel naked even when they're not naked sometimes. Like, the aesthetic of this movie is just so wonderful and so specific to its time. Like, this movie could not exist before or after 1982. It really feels like it's a perfect storm of craziness.
Can I share a few lines of dialogue from this film that are just so beautifully written?
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are direct quotes from the movie. I didn't write them. I'm just repeating them. A woman says, "The most beautiful thing in the world is smoking pot and fucking on a waterbed."
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful lines. The police...
She's not wrong.
The police officer, when they're looking for clues, they're like, "We're just out buying clothes without labels and trying them on for size." That's how police talk. Police referring to a dead body chopped cleanly into many pieces, saying, "I don't want to wait for the coroner's opinion, so could you give me yours? Could this have been done with a chainsaw, like that one over there?"
Oh, please don't touch that
Pointing at the
chainsaw.
obvious murder weapon, the professor goes to inspect the weapon. "Don't touch it, Professor. You may have just destroyed evidence." "Oh, I am terribly sorry. Well, I'm not a pathologist, but even a layman could see it was done with this." Police says, "Okay, thanks." It's awesome.
It's like it's not even trying to be credible somehow.
There's more, but it just goes on. It's great.
Yeah, 2 quick things that I want to just for the Giallo set. One of the things about the Giallo killer is that we never see their face until the 3rd act, and they always wear gloves.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really weird because the pieces is a metaphor not just for him cutting girls into pieces, but he dug out the old puzzle from when he was a kid, and he's slowly filling the pieces of the puzzle together. And he's always got the gloves on while he's doing the puzzle, and I'm like, who is that for? Like, I get you're wearing the gloves when you do your kills, because, evidence, fingerprints, or whatever, but right now you're in your lair, and you're doing your puzzle in your shadow costume with the gloves. It's just so absurd. I love it.
We didn't even discuss sneaking into the elevator, hiding a chainsaw behind his back. That happened.
That's a thing that
You
happens.
could just like, oh, excuse me, put the chainsaw behind your back. She won't see this, and she doesn't. What do you think about the ending? The very end. I mean, so he's collecting these pieces of women and he's sewing them together. We find to recreate his mother. I'm guessing he's got her dressed in his mother's old dress, but and then at the end, the corpse,
Grabs
of course,
his
comes to
balls.
life and grabs his nuts and squeezes and
Yeah.
And
honestly, like, that's a completely ridiculous non sequitur of an ending, but it saves the movie in a way. Because the actual resolution of the serial killer is so abrupt and anticlimactic that you're kind of like, really? Which was exactly the same experience I had with Sleepless, the other Giallo movie I was talking about. They have all this build up to the end, and then bang, it's over so quickly you don't even really get to enjoy it. But then they hit you with this corpse comes alive and squeezes his nuts into jelly and slam into credits, and you just don't. What did I watch?
It's absurd, but
What
I think
did I
it
watch?
I think it elicits applause too when that happens. You just, of course, that's what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
Now, there's a theory out there that it all makes sense because Kendall goes through the whole movie using women, you know, and finally this woman at the end grabs him by his nuts, which maybe makes sense. I don't know. I don't think they thought that clearly, but
I think that implies a depth that this movie simply does not have.
No.
But it sure is entertaining.